Hello and welcome to N.E.S.T Create session for the 7th of April 2020. We're just testing audio and we will start the session in a few minutes when everyone is here. Okay, we'll just wait an extra 3 to 4 minutes just in case anyone else joins. Hello Wasim Al Hussein, how are you doing? We're just waiting an extra couple minutes in case anyone else joins the session, and then we shall begin. I'm good, Wasim, thank you for asking. Just wait an extra minute or so. Okay, for anyone else who just joined in, hello and welcome. This is the Create session for N.E.S.T classes for Tuesday, the 7th of April. Today we have a short little presentation about an artist called Frida Kahlo. Today's lessons will include information about the life of Frida Kahlo, her paintings, symbolism in Kahlo's work, a quiz, and lots of keywords. So keep an ear out to listen to, keep your ears open to listen to the keywords and the quiz. There will be a quiz in the end. And yeah, that's what people look forward to most in these sessions. So, the life of Frida Kahlo. Frida Kahlo was born in a small village on the outskirts of Mexico City in 1907. Outskirts just basically means the neighborhoods towards the outer area of the city. So, she was born in Mexico City in 1907. Her father was a painter and photographer, and she helped her father out with developing his photos throughout her life, which is probably very useful and one of the main reasons she became an artist as well. It was what she was raised into. At school, Kahlo's group of friends were very interested in Mexican culture, political activism, and social justice. So, political activism is like when there are riots or, you know, what's the word? Demonstrations in what's in like to active as an activism towards the government. And she was also interested in social justice. Hello, I'm Mohammed. Welcome. Um, Kahlo wanted to become a doctor at school, and at age 18, she was involved in a serious bus accident. She had to stay in bed for 2 years to recover from it, which obviously was not ideal if she wanted to become a doctor. It's not easy to learn medicine from a hospital bed. Now we have a little bit of Mexican history. The Mexican Revolution began when Frida was 3 years old. If anyone was here during last week's session, a revolution is basically a form of war or internal war. It doesn't involve other countries. It's like a civil war. Um, it began when Frida was 3 years old, and it lasted for 10 years, from 1910 to 1920. So part of that was also during the First World War, which was from 1914 to 1918. The revolution transformed the Mexican government and established the Constitution of Mexico. A key word is constitution. Constitution is the fundamental principles that determine how something is governed. Sorry, there's a typing error there. It's is governed, not in governed. So basically, it's a word that has to do with the government or how a country is led. So if we say the Constitution of the United States, it's the government or the rules and principles that the government follows. I'll give you an extra minute or so just to look at the information there again. Let me know if you have any questions or if I'm going too quickly. This PowerPoint presentation should have also been emailed to you just in case you would like to go through it again or go through it as I'm explaining. Frida Kahlo's artwork. Frida Kahlo's early work was often portraits. Does anybody remember what a portrait is? If you were here the last two sessions, you will remember. Just in case you don't hear any of the questions I ask, they will be typed out into the comments by Mahmoud Habib, which is me, just a different account. I'll give you a second just in case anyone wants to answer the question. The question is, does anybody know what a portrait is? Okay, so a portrait is like a picture or a painting of a human being. So, for example, the Mona Lisa was a portrait because it was a painting of Lisa, the woman in the photo. Frida Kahlo drew inspiration from Mexican folk art, which is just a form of art basically, and it's where she got some of her inspiration. She mixed reality with surrealism. Now, here's another keyword, surrealism. It's involved in creating art that did not make any sense, often using everyday objects. So it's just art that doesn't really have a basic meaning behind it or a real life meaning to it. So she would mix realities or things that happen in real life with things that aren't exactly real or don't really make that much sense, which made her very famous till today. Her most famous work is self portraits. Now, keyword is self portraits as well. As I just said, portrait is a picture of them of a person. A self portrait is um, a painting that an artist produces of themselves. So Frida Kahlo's most famous work was her painting an image of herself. Just give you a second to look at those points again. Okay. Here are some pictures of Frida Kahlo's self-portraits. As you can see, each of them looks very different to the one before, yet it's all the same person. You may not recognize Frida Kahlo's name, however, you've probably seen one of these photos, or at least they would look familiar to you. I'll give you a second to look at these as well. As you can see, each and every single one of them is very detailed in its own way. So the top left shows a cat and a little monkey, and then an image of Frida Kahlo in what looks like a jungle. Then on the right, an image of Frida Kahlo wearing flowers, which just symbolizes nature, I'm assuming. Bottom left is an image of Frida Kahlo and what would seem to be her throat. I'm assuming there's another meaning behind it. And to the right looks like two identical Frida Kahlos. They're each very detailed and use a different wide range of colors. I'll give you a few seconds to just look at those as well. Here are some more of Frida Kahlo's paintings. Do you like any of them? Um, as you can see, they're also very detailed. Each of them looks like it's a picture with 1,000 meanings behind it, or a picture with 1,000 words, which is also a famous saying that just describes that the picture is very detailed, or talks about a lot, or there's 1,000 words behind the picture. I'll give you a few seconds to look at these as well. To move on, symbolism in Frida Kahlo's work. Now here's another keyword, symbolism. Symbolism is the use of symbols to represent ideas. So symbol is just, it's like something to represent an idea. Um, so some people would say a smile is a symbol of hope because it represents hope or happiness. Um, so that's a keyword that's very useful to keep in mind. Her work often includes tree root imagery. This represents the theme of personal growth as a tree plants its roots. So basically, what she means is she's like showing trees as a symbol in symbolism of humans. So humans would grow themselves and develop themselves. We're educating ourselves right now so we can become better in the future and bigger. Or we also eat to become bigger, to grow. So her theme, one of her common themes, used this idea in connection to trees and how trees with time grow more roots deeper into the ground and become bigger and bigger to live for a very long time. It also represents the sense of being trapped in a place or time. When a tree is growing, it just grows longer and longer in the same spot and it's trapped and it cannot move, which just may represent maybe similar to what some humans would be like. Um, yeah. So I guess there's different ways of looking at it, but it's very detailed and interesting. Kahlo also used medical imagery in her work. So if you look at this image from before, it looks like there's a statue instead of her throat, and nails all over her, with tears coming out of her eyes. So it's as if she kept getting shot and her throat is about to collapse. So these images represent pain and wounds. Contribution to art. So Frida Kahlo died in 1954. She was born in 1907, so that makes her 47 when she died, which is a very young age. After her death in 1954, Frida Kahlo developed more recognition from her work, which basically means that she became more and more famous after her death, surprisingly. So she wasn't as famous or as well known before she died. However, it's a legacy that continues forever now. Her art, I mean. People now consider Kahlo as one of the most significant artists of the 20th century, which just means that people loved Kahlo so much that she is one of the best artists to have ever existed, especially of the 20th century. A minority is just a group of people that are less than the rest of the population. So basically, she became an icon for them, or someone they looked up to, someone they were very proud of, because she fought for minorities no matter what. She wouldn't care what others would think, she would be persistent and strong and would fight for her people. So, as I said, feminism is also an example of that, but there could be many other examples. Immigrants, for example, are considered minorities in certain places. And it's because of people like Kahlo that we feel welcome, or immigrants feel welcome all over the world now, and feminists feel welcome all over the world as well. It's people that fought for freedom or equality. Um, so yeah, as you can tell, Frida Kahlo is a very well-known and strong, dedicated person. Another comment on her medical images, as seen here. So since, like I said, she was used in medical imagery, she used medical imagery, which is an interesting approach to art. It gives the picture more meaning, and whenever, like when you see this painting at first, you can probably assume and tell that the person was in so much pain, but it probably does not represent physical pain, just what's it called? Sorry, emotional pain. Until today, Frida Kahlo is still a very famous and influential artist. Now, to move on, we have a short quiz about the session. I'll give you a few seconds just in case anyone would like to open this PowerPoint on their own device, just so they can go through it again while answering the questions. First question is, where was Frida Kahlo born? If anyone knows the answer, please leave it in the comments. If anyone knows the answer, please leave it down below. If not, you can just guess as well. Once again, where was Frida Kahlo born? Does anybody know the answer before we move on? Okay, Frida Kahlo was born in Mexico. And precisely the city was Mexico City. Yes, thank you, Halima. That's correct. Mexico City. Was the answer paintings of herself, paintings of animals, or paintings of cities? Painting of herself. That's correct, Halima. Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is what jobs did her father do? Options are photography and painting, doctor and baker, or engineer and driver. Photography and painting. That's correct, Halima. Thank you. The next question is when did the Mexican Revolution begin and when did it end? Options are 1895 to 1905, 1905 to 1915, or 1910 to 1920. That's correct, Halima. Thank you very much for answering. The next question is, does anybody know what a constitution is? Or give an example. Thank you, Asim. Correct. 1910 to 1920. This is a harder one, so I'll give you a little more time. Correct, Halima. A constitution are fundamental principles that determine how something is governed. Next question is, can you define surrealism or give an example? So, surrealism is basically um, involving creating something that doesn't make any sense. So, stuff that you wouldn't really understand easily. It may have a meaning behind it, but it doesn't make sense. Just a few more questions. Next question is, when did Frida Kahlo die? Correct, Helena. Creating art that does not make sense. Thank you very much. Does anybody know when Frida Kahlo died? 1954, correct, Halima, thank you. Next question is, when did Frida Kahlo become more famous for her work? 1954, 23 July. Okay, I did not know that detail, but thank you very much. Correct, Wasim. Thank you for your contribution as well. Next question is, when did she become more famous for her work? Or get more recognition for her work? Does anybody know when Frida Kahlo became more famous for her work? That's a close guess, Wasim, but not really. The answer is Frida Kahlo was more recognized or became more famous for her work after her death in 1954. So after she died, her legacy became better and continues till today. She's considered one of the best artists, especially of the 20th century. 20th century means the 1900s. One last question. Um, can you define symbolism or give an example? That's close, Wasim. Partly, yes. So it's trying to present ideas through something else. I'll find you the exact definition. So it's using symbols to represent ideas. Correct, very correct what you said. So, like I said, a smile is a symbol of happiness. So, for example, in this image, she uses the statue to symbolize that she is in pain or about to break. Correct, Halim Ibrahim. Thank you very much. Okay. Um, Another useful thing you might want to look for, um, or like look through if you have the time. Here are some virtual links to museums and art gallery tours. So basically, it's like a video taken inside art galleries, and it shows you lots of artworks and architecture and interesting figures and facts about the museums. These should hopefully be free as well. There's some from the National Gallery, the Tate Modern Museum, the British Museum, the Vatican Museum, and the Natural History Museum, which I think is national history. Oh, it's natural history, never mind. But yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. I'm just going to stay on an extra minute just in case anyone has any questions about the session, about English in general, or about N.E.S.T in general. If you have any questions, please let me know and ask me in the comments right now. Another interesting thing for anyone who might not have known, we have sessions on Zoom right now where you can directly speak to a teacher. We have sessions every day. Might be worth a try. Zoom is an app with video calls where you can directly speak to teachers with all sorts of sessions. Does anybody have any questions about English or N.E.S.T or about this session? Thank you for joining. Two colleagues of mine will be doing next week's session. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but please tune in. It should be interesting and different as well. If nobody has any questions, this will be the end of the session. I apologize if it was short. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for joining. I'll stay on just an extra minute in case anybody has any questions. Thank you so much, Wasim. Thank you for your feedback. And thank you for being cooperative, everyone. Okay. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good day and see you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.